Pericles ruled during Athens' golden age. He did a number of things to contribute to Greek society during that time. He opened all offices to male citizens. He provided that these officers be paid, or these office holders be paid, and that they be chosen by lot or at random. And he also dominated the Delian League, which ultimately helped start the Peloponnesian War when Pericles moved the headquarters from the island Delos to Athens. Greek art helped to glorify humans. It combined usefulness with beauty. It used harmony, order, balance, and proportion by using ratios such as the golden mean. Some of the greatest works of architecture today in the United States are based off of architecture that was created during Greece's golden age. A prime example is the Jefferson Memorial, which was modeled after the Parthenon in ancient Greece. There's a good video in your Premium Resources tab on the Parthenon that you can take a look at, but you can notice in the two pictures here that the Parthenon is very similar in nature, given its columns and the pillars and the frieze that lies above them, and how they are very similar to one another today. Tragedies were dramas in ancient Greece, usually about love, hate, war, or betrayal, where the main character was very gifted, but ultimately had a flaw, and that was excessive hubris or excessive pride in oneself that ultimately led to their downfall. The other type of drama used in Greek history and art was the comedy. The comedy used crude humor. Oftentimes they made fun of politics and respected people. Aristophanes was one such comedian who used comedy in a unique fashion. He would oftentimes put women in charge of politics or as the head of their family, and at the time that was seen as very humorous in Greek society. When it came to history, there were two main players that contributed to this branch of liberal arts. Herodotus was the first. He is also known as the father of history. He was the first to report on events in the Persian Wars and to decipher between primary and secondary sources. And Thucydides, who believed that history repeated itself and that it could aid in our understanding of the present world. The Greek city-states were unified because of these four things. Each Greek city-state was different and unique in that it had its own laws and measurements and governments, but what enabled the Greeks to unify were the fact that they had the Olympics, they had a common language, they were all polytheistic, and they also had a common ancestry in that they were descendants of the Greek god Helen. The Peloponnesian War was a civil war between the Greek city-states of Athens and Sparta. The result or the reason for the war was the Athenians' growth in wealth and power, which was ultimately the result of control of the Delian League. The Athenians were able to control the sea with their dominant navy, while Sparta had a much stronger army and preferred to fight inland. Ultimately, the war ended with a victory by Sparta, mainly through a plague and through the burning of food supply. There were three main philosophers out of ancient Greece. Among them were Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Socrates was known for the saying, "Know thyself." He thought it was important that people did not just imitate their elders, and that they thought for themselves and questioned their elders. He thought that ignorance bred evil, and that reason and logic should guide one's life. He developed the Socratic method, which is a teaching method that uses persistent questioning. He was a critic of democracy because he felt it was unwise for unskilled people to hold such important positions in the government. Ultimately, Socrates was executed by the Athenian government for corrupting the minds of the Athenian youth. Plato was mentored by Socrates. He was able to found the Academy, which was a school for teaching philosophy. He wrote a number of dialogues and books on government, religion, education, justice, and virtue. He developed the theory of forms, which was the idea that every physical thing was an imperfect expression of a perfect universal form or idea. He also wrote The Republic, which was his idea for an ideal government. His ideal government took the form of an aristocracy. Aristotle was mentored by Plato. He taught Alexander the Great. When it came to philosophy and literature, he wrote about ethics and poetics and politics. In science, he had great contributions to botany, zoology, and anatomy. In government and philosophy, he accepted a number of different levels of government, and he also expressed the importance of the middle class.